Hi there, this is Brittany from By Brittany Goldwyn. I post videos about plants and projects, and today we are doing a greenhouse update specifically on the progress with the heater. So when I did the initial tour of my Backyard Discovery Willow greenhouse, I showed you guys the heater that I got, but it was still too hot to use it, so I hadn't done any troubleshooting or setup. Now it was 18 degrees this morning here in Maryland Zone 7A, so we are obviously using the heater. I'm going to talk a little bit through the heat retention for this greenhouse, some tips to improve the heat retention, talk about the heater that we got and how we like it and some tips for using it, and also some tips on using seed mats to supplement your heat. So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about heat retention with the greenhouse. Yesterday is a great example of the fact that the greenhouse effect is very real. There is a reason why it's named that. It only got up to about 28 degrees here, but the sun was out. So during the day, I was able to see from my office on my little phone monitoring app that the greenhouse was up to like 65 degrees. That was without the heater running, just the fact that the sun was out, helping to warm things up even when it was in the 20s outside. Now at night is a different scenario completely. Without a heater, there's obviously no sun out at night to heat things up, and so the temperature drops down to just a few degrees above what it is outside. Obviously, it doesn't factor in any sort of wind chill or anything because the greenhouse is not experiencing the same levels of wind as the outside temperatures are. So I only run the heater at night right now, and I keep the heater at about 42 degrees. So right now with what I have in the greenhouse, my goal is not to keep tropical temperatures in here. It's to just keep things just above freezing so things aren't totally shocked being in here overnight. And I have yet to have to run the heater during the day because even on those cloudier overcast days, like right now it is about 45 degrees here in the greenhouse. The heater is not running right now and it is cloudy outside and it is about probably low 20s. It's very cold and flurrying today. So even when it's overcast, it still does a pretty good job of retaining heat. Now, we did choose a poured concrete base for our greenhouse, and I do think that that probably has something to do with the heat retention as well. If it were an open ground or a gravel base, I don't know how that would affect the heat retention, but I have to assume that since concrete can hold a lot of heat in it, that may help as well with some of the heat retention. As far as things that you can do to improve the efficiency of heat retention in your greenhouse, I'm going to talk specifically for the Backyard Discovery greenhouse. We have the Willow model, but I assume that these apply to all of the different Backyard Discovery greenhouse models and also probably greenhouses in general, but just take the best practices that you would take when insulating your home. So you want to look for areas where there are cracks, areas where in the summer you like that airflow, so the passive ventilation for the greenhouse. There is a fan right above me, which obviously we don't have running right now. And then down there is a vent that is pretty much just open to the outside. So putting a piece of foam core insulation there or covering it in some way would probably be very helpful. Look for areas that there are cracks in between the pieces of wood or in between the wood and the panels, the window panels, and put some sort of small insulation there, something that's removable. I would not recommend caulking those, but something that is removable, like a thin piece of foam, like the things that you put in a thicker caulk joint before you caulk the joint. If you put that little foam like cylindrical thing into it, I think that would be super helpful for those areas as well. Now, I have seen people put foam core insulation panels along the bottom of the Backyard Discovery greenhouse because there are not window panels at the bottom. It's just wood panels there. So putting foam core insulation there, some people have said is very helpful. I've not done that. I'm not trying to keep my greenhouse at a super high temperature, so I just don't think it's necessary. And people have also put bubble wrap up around the windows and even on the ceiling to improve some of the heat retention. Now, if you do go that route, I would recommend finding something with the biggest bubble that you can and putting it up in a way that you can put it up and take it down and have it be reusable. But again, that's not something that we are looking at doing just because of the low temperature that we are keeping the greenhouse at. So as a refresher, this is the heater that we chose. It's the Palma Twin model by the brand BioGreen. And this is something that is specifically designed to heat greenhouses. This is not a space heater. It's something that is rated as splash proof and can be safely and reliably used in damp rooms. So for someone that's very paranoid about safety, that was important to me. As you can see on here, it has two different heating modes. That's what those two different color means. The yellow with the one line is the 750 watt mode, and the green with the two lines is the 1500 watt mode. Now the 750 watt mode heats up to 130 square feet, and the 1500 watt mode heats up to, I can't remember because it was way more than what we needed. You'll have to check online for that because our greenhouse is only 54 square feet. So I am only using the 750 watt mode to heat this because it is obviously much lower than what the 750 watt mode is capable of heating. So when I bought the heater, I did make a little mistake. I ended up buying just the heater thinking I did not need the coordinating thermostat. The heater retails for $160 and the thermostat retails for $70. So that's about $230 I spent on the package. If you buy them together up front, you'll save about $30 and end up just spending $200 on the package, which I would definitely recommend because the thermostat is awesome. You can set it so that the heater has an auto on and off function. I'll show you guys what that looks like here. So you are able to set whatever temperature you like, and then the heater will kick on and off depending on what that temperature is. As you can see here, I have it set to 44 right now. It has not kicked on since I've been in here. You can put this up or down a few degrees just depending on what you have in here. And then the thermostat can control from -58 to 210 degrees Fahrenheit, or at least it's sensitive to those temperatures, which honestly are both temperatures that I hope I never experience. But that tells you that it has a very wide range for a variety of conditions. It will cover all of the different temperatures that you are probably experiencing or want to achieve in your greenhouse. Oh, and one more thing I read that I liked about it, it uses air circulation heating, so it is able to very efficiently heat up a space. I wrote down here that it can circulate up to 5,800 cubic feet of air per hour. So obviously this is a very small greenhouse. I do not have 5,800 cubic feet of air in here, so we have been very happy with how efficiently this heater has been heating up the greenhouse at night and keeping it warm overnight. And since I've been keeping the temperature pretty low at night to, not have the heater running constantly and just basically keep things alive in here, I have a separate little setup that I've been using to test out some winter propagations of even some tropical plants. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like now. This is just a way that I've been keeping these propagations growing and happy without having to heat the entire greenhouse to be that high temperature. So the greenhouse itself never gets below between 42 to 44 degrees, but then inside of this little plastic covered area, it is a little bit warmer because I have a seedling mat plugged in here. So here's a look at what I have in here. You see I have a variety of perennial plants for the area. A lot of the propagations I was working on at the end of the season that are still doing pretty great. I've got sage, perennial sage, yarrow, catmint, rosemary, lavender. And then up here I have several Hoya plants. I love Hoyas. They're my favorite type of houseplant to have. And I started a bunch of propagations from existing plants and thought, why don't I see if I can keep these going in the greenhouse over the winter? So they are just sitting on a plugged-in seedling mat here. The ones on the bottom don't even have a seedling mat because these are perennials for our area. But I have my Hoyas here sitting on a seedling mat. Now, seedling mats are generally going to be like 70, 75 degrees. Obviously, that's not heating up this entire little greenhouse to that temperature. But when I tested the temperature retention and what a difference it makes before leaving them out here in it, I realized that it helps boost about 10 degrees in this little greenhouse here, the greenhouse within a greenhouse. So that has been successful for retaining all of the temperature needs for these plants. And then of course the greenhouse gets even hotter during the day when the sun is out, heating everything else up. The sun just came out outside, which means the greenhouse is going to warm up very quickly in here, thankfully, because I'm going to be filming some more videos in here. And like I said, it's frigid today. But the one last thing I wanted to cover was I did order this. Now you may be wondering, you spent all that money on the thermostat that pairs with the heater. Why did you get this as well? I got this because it attaches to my phone. That is the one negative I would say about the BioGreen heater and thermostat it comes with. I would love it if I could just monitor everything in the temperatures through my phone, but this is no biggie. It is something that is pretty cheap to buy on Amazon, and it's the brand Govee. I'll link it below, but this allows me to see what things are doing in the greenhouse at any time without coming out here. So it's Bluetooth enabled, so I do have to be within range, but I didn't want to pay for the Wi-Fi enabled ones, which are a lot more expensive. And you can see in here, if I were to check this from my phone, which I will show you guys some screen captures of what that looks like, you can see that it is 48.4 degrees in here, and you can also monitor the humidity levels. This is something I like having in the summer as well, because the greenhouse can heat up very, very quickly. And then also another cool thing about this app that this comes with is it allows you to monitor the temperature over time. So I have a record of what temperature the greenhouse has been every day and every night. I'm able to clearly see that the temperature has never dropped below a certain amount. And then I can also see the highs that the greenhouse gets up to during the day, which is very, very cool to see when it's like 20 some degrees outside. And I can see that there are days that when the sun is out, the greenhouse has gotten up to like 75 degrees. And that's really awesome because I don't get out here every day to check it all day. It's just nice to see what those temperature fluctuations are when I'm deciding what I want to try and grow in here and what sort of supplemental heat I may have to add. So before we wrap up here, I want to talk a little bit about electrical needs for heating your greenhouse. We had originally planned to just run an extension cord from an outlet at the house to power our power port here on the greenhouse and then plug the heater into that. We don't know a ton about electricity, and when we saw that it was immediately tripping the breaker, we called out the electricians that we have hired for other jobs to take a look at things and tell us what needed to be done. They said the best idea was just to run power out to the greenhouse, which we had planned to do next year. We were just kind of trying to find a solution in the meantime. And so they ended up running a dedicated line out to the greenhouse. And then we saw that it was still tripping the breaker when we turned on the heater because they were GFCI plugs out here. And what the electrician realized was happening was the heater was tripping the GFCI plug every single time we tried to run it. So what he ended up having to do was install a second plug out here that's non-GFCI to plug the heater into, so that if it tripped the breaker, it would trip the whole breaker and not just the plug. So we have one GFCI plug in here under this bench and one non-GFCI plug directly under where I have the camera right here, and that is what I have the thermostat plugged into and then have the heater plugged into the thermostat. We have not had any issues with this. Again, the heater is the only thing running on this electrical line that we have out here. Well, I guess in addition to the little seedling mat that we have plugged in, but we don't have anything else running out here and have not had any issues for about a month now. So if electricity is not your forte, which it is not my forte, I do not like messing with plumbing or electricity, then make sure you have someone out to take a look at your situation to tell you what is the safest and best option for you. All right, and that wraps up the tour of how we are heating our little greenhouse here. That is with passive heat during the day from the sun. Even when it's cloudy, the greenhouse does a great job heating up and retaining the heat on its own. And then at night, we are using the BioGreen Palma Twin heater, specifically designed for greenhouses with the attached thermostat, which again, I highly recommend you invest in if you are going to go with this heater. So if you have any questions about heating this greenhouse specifically, or anything that you're thinking about doing for your greenhouse, please drop the questions below, drop your comments and tips below. I'm always trying to do things more efficiently and save on electricity bills, which can be hard when you're running a heater in a greenhouse. So until then, happy planting.